So, and Jessica is here
Me
too.
again, I'm afraid.
So between now and lunch, that's us and our presentation. So let's try to make it a bit short. And I just want to start by saying it's really lovely to be back here and to see some familiar faces in person. Jessica and I and Alexander, Pam, and Jane thought it would be of interest to share with you some of the results of a research project we conducted over the last a couple of years, maybe less than 2 years. And it was called Rodeo, which stands for Reflecting on Digital Education and Online in Higher Education. And we want to quickly go through the process, the results, and some of the conclusions and maybe impact and materials that you might be interested in having a look and maybe reflect on the impact of those materials.
I should say, so a part of the output is we produced a tip sheet on reflecting in education, and I've just realised I forgot to bring it down from my office. So what I'll do is I'll put it on the front desk. So if you're interested, you can kind of pick it up at lunchtime.
Thanks.
Sorry.
No, good point. So a bit of context. The idea of this project we submitted to Code initially came from the observation of helping colleagues to achieve their advanced HE fellowship. Not sure if everyone is familiar with this process at least in the UK, about getting the accreditation for your teaching. And for a senior fellow, you need to write 2 case studies. And 1 or 2 years after COVID, people were writing heavily those case studies about online teaching, even though if they were teaching in a non-distance institution. But after a couple of years, they started forgetting about that bit of teaching. So teaching was not digital anymore. So we had this perception that we probably are not focusing on a very important aspect of what we do in a regular institution, obviously much more important in an online or distance education institution. So the idea was to see and to test and to ask colleagues if they find the reflective practice as effective in terms of having an real impact on their practice. So very briefly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, just to say, I mentioned the names, people coming from 3 different institutions. So we're looking at City St. George's context, and then University of London with some international colleagues, and we have Alexander from the Netherlands. So we included all of them, and we were very lucky to have Logam, a code student fellow who helped us for these projects. So we had 3 focus groups last year, and it was very entertaining. Both Jessica and I run our own focus group, and we realized that people really enjoyed talking about the way they reflect about their teaching. It's kind of an onion, reflecting about how we reflect. And we are very happy with the results. We are about to submit a paper with the data we collect and the thematic analysis we've been doing. So for today, we like to focus a bit on the results, and Jessica is taking over now.
Thanks. So what was really interesting is we kind of did the 3 different groups. We did the City St. George's, who are mainly kind of all people based in London. Then my course, which is an online course, it's got people from kind of all over. And then Alex's course in the Netherlands. We actually didn't see that much difference between the 3 groups. We thought there might be some significant changes, but actually we didn't so much. A lot of the findings were common to all 3 groups. We're going to talk about them together. So people were talking about the importance of individual reflection, kind of either just very quickly or kind of actually using journals and really recording their thoughts, but also group reflections, and not just group reflections in the terms that I always think of it as talking to your colleagues about your teaching, but actually with students as well. That kind of conversation about, what's working for you in this module, what isn't working, and reflecting with them together. And doing it informally sometimes in kind of a team meeting context. And if there's space for that, it's really helpful. They also talked about annual monitoring. lots of us maybe see annual monitoring as a bit of an imposition and, oh God, I've got to fill out this long form and what do I put in it? But someone said that they'd really changed their opinion of that, and they actually then put it as their own opportunity to really reflect. And this is actually giving me the space and time and the kind of deadline to do it as well, which is, you know, often missing from reflection. People talked about PG certs. One of my students actually said that it felt like they had to do so much reflection that they weren't allowed to stop reflecting. It is, you know, maybe I don't want people to feel overwhelmed, but good that they kind of do that out of it. And that was, again, common to kind of courses in the different universities. And a lot of it came from negativity. So a lot of it was kind of, because especially a lot of these people are fairly new to teaching. So it's the kind of, you know, oh God, something's gone terrible, or my students aren't listening to me, or my students aren't even turning up, or I'm teaching online and, you know, no one's got their cameras on and things like that. So what can they do to change things? And really importantly, something to support it is time. We heard a lot about people saying, I've got so much to do, and kind of more is being put on me. So reflection just gets pushed down. In terms of digital tools, people didn't really reflect kind of separately on them. They were kind of integrating that into their general reflections. But they would be thinking about, you know, what did I want to get out of this? What are my students actually getting out of it? Is it working? But a lot of them were saying that they didn't really have time to kind of sit down and think about, oh, what could be the best tool for this? But it was just kind of, okay, is it working? If it's working, that's fine. I'm going to leave it. I'm only going to look at it if it's a problem. People found that, especially in the digital arena, it was really important to share practices and get ideas from other people. And there might be someone in your department who's like, I'm always finding new things. Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? So it's really useful to have those people. And lots of people are kind of talking about wanting to do more with technology, and it's, you know, kind of really essential. But also we did have some people talking about the negative sides of digital tools and saying that I don't want to do that. I like the human interaction. I don't want to go down that road. I'm going to go back to Lewis too.
Yeah, and thanks, Jessica. And so we've been talking about this, and actually our conversation really interesting. And in terms of the patterns, a couple of things we notice is that so the ones less experienced, they reflect more often. And was the other ones more experienced, they continue to reflect, but they also think about supporting colleagues especially in informal settings. In terms of suggestions coming from the participants in these focus groups, they said they need more need for more reflection space on teaching identity or teacher identity. So again, it's not just about a session that went wrong, it's wider. And I think that links well with your presentation as well, Jessica. They said it's good to have a support system like peers, mentors, someone they can talk to. As we said, most of these thoughts are coming from negative experiences, and we've been thinking that if you are isolated, obviously that will have a negative impact on your perception as a teacher. And the other thing is the importance of sharing ideas, because we mentioned a few times the negative experiences, but when they do something that went really well, people tend to keep it to themselves and just assume that's the way it is. And I think encouraging colleagues to share also those things that they are doing well in the classroom with digital devices, online, etc., is also very important. Just some recommendations or questions. So if you want to engage with the debate. We mentioned a few things already. So as the negative situations tend to trigger reflectiveness, how do you support those colleagues and avoid isolation? I've just mentioned this. And number 3, it was interesting because in our focus groups, at least in mine, no one mentioned the formal schemes we have in place, like the PG cert, the advanced HE. So people don't, at least in that context, didn't perceive those as moments for reflectiveness, which I found quite interesting. So at times the silence is also as important as what they mentioned. And the other thing is that how do you support both group and individual reflections? Again, how do we make the informal recognized without becoming formal? which is a tricky it's a conundrum. And for digital education, how to create specific emphasis on this, that teaching or using your VLE, whatever you are doing with the digital tools, should be part of your application if you are working on the advanced stage. This is the last slide, and Jessica mentioned we've been working on a few outputs generated by this project. We want to share with colleagues with what we are learning from this. And besides presentations and the paper, etc., we produced this pamphlet with the help of colleagues in code, and is now part of the collection Top Tips for a Higher Education. So Jessica said we have a few copies that you can enjoy in a real world.
So it's online, so you can look it up and get the thing online. But if you want a physical copy, I will go up to my office, take them out of my locker where they're not very useful to anyone, and I will bring them to the front desk so people can have them.
And the last thing is that we said we'd like to maybe transform these results into a webinar, a session. If there's interest, just let us know, and we'd be very happy to run some training or to have a conversation and we'll find help. So that's us. Thank you so much for